Okay, welcome to the first annual Adaptive Difficulty Award Show.
An award show that we did not pre-discuss the format of in basically any way other than that we were doing one.
All the best things come from spontaneity. Nothing good ever comes from planning. We all know this.
So the official name, much like the Academy Awards, are the awards from the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences, or something like that, is the first annual Adaptive Difficulty Award Show. But what is our Oscars? Our real name.
I mean, you brought up the Adapties, which is on the nose, not very inspired, but does get the job done, which is like what adaptation in like the science world is all about. Like, it doesn't have to be fancy; it just has to get the job done.
It just has to survive. Considering the only other suggestion we've had from either of us, I believe, is the Pokemon Awards.
Yeah, I'm not sold on that. Sold out on that anymore.
Okay. Which I'm not the one who came up with it, but I believe that was something to do with Pokemon Evolve. Evolutions are an adaptation, and our show is about adaptations. Did I follow the
that
logic
was the kind
correctly?
Of mental logic in there that's a little bit tortured because I wanted us to get to the Pokemon Awards.
So you just wanted it to be called the Pokemon Awards in the first place.
It matches with our theme of like how we score things. It runs the risk of us getting sued by Nintendo, which at this point can only be good for our popularity.
Yeah, it could be the achievements.
I think the Adapties were
okay. Okay, we'll stick with the Adapties.
Although we welcome
basically
any recommendations. I'm trying to think of so if you get all of them, you get an EGOT. Like, is it now going to be a EGOTA or EGOT?
No, if you win our award, which is the most prestigious of them all, you become the EGOT, which is even better.
We're sold. This is solid now. Yeah. I'm fully behind this plan of the Adapties.
Basically, our show. So the plan going forward would be that this happens once a year and covers the previous year. Our shows existed for about a year and change, so what I planned was to cover everything except anything from this year, which really only excluded Tom and Jerry and the Wizard of Oz.
Which
they'll be in awards contention next year.
I mean,
probably
was
not.
It ever going to win an award? Probably not.
That's their eligibility year, according to the very official bylaws of the Adapties. I think you were about to say another thing we did not discuss is the format or what awards we would give out. So I just came up with a tournament style bracket because we've covered roughly 16 things, which is a perfect amount for a bracket.
Our own Sweet 16.
I believe you have something different from me.
Yeah, I came up with categories because I was thinking of it in terms of like the Oscars. So like, I guess theoretically any of them could be eligible for any of these, but because I had like ones like.
Did you come up with like a five nominee shortlist?
I had like 3.
Category? Oh, okay. So those can be the achievements that are given out at the Adapties, and we'll come up with another name for the tournament. Which of these I feel like the tournament should go last because that's going to crown like an overall, like that's like best picture, you know? So I guess let's start with what are the categories, and then we'll go more in depth in each specific category.
Okay. So I have most fun to record, and that involves things like actually engaging with the material, just the fun of recording it, whether or not there's some stupid technology bullshit that like makes it so that's frustrating to record. I have, and this one can be like, what do we think our best episode was, in terms of like production and like actually having like a coherent thought throughout all the things. I have best adaptation, which we can
save that
for the
one
end
for the tournament.
I also have the least enjoyed, and we can talk about maybe reasons why we didn't like it, in terms of both like either recording it or also there. And then I have worst adaptations.
Okay. So let's start with some of the worsts, because I feel like it's good to end positive. What are your shortlist for worst adaptation?
So in terms of worst adaptations, the 3 that I have are the Mario Bros. Movie, the Minecraft movie, and Star Wars: A New Hope.
Okay. That is similar to... I had to come up with a list of... I had to make it a 16 bracket, and I'll explain a little more in depth. There's a couple tricks I used.
Did you seed these?
But the one thing I just had to
Did you seed the bracket? So like, there's like a ranked one that's like...
I tried to do slightly thematic categories, but also the first round at least is a little bit seeded, just so we end up with more interesting conversations as we go on. You know, I tried to put like something I think we liked against something I think we did not like very much, at least in the first round. And maybe we'll have an upset if it turns out your opinion's different than I thought. But I did have to just rule out Star Wars: A New Hope from the start, because I figured it was the least similar to anything else in contention other than Empire Strikes Back and the thing we liked the least, it would have to be my vote for worst overall adaptation. Partially because the experience of it is that you have to read an entire book rather than just watch one bad movie.
Counterpart,
which is maybe not fair to books, but
the Minecraft movie felt like 4 hours, Josh.
I'm going to put a hard line here right now. It's not the Minecraft movie because the Mario movie is worse.
I guess that's true.
We talked about that at length in the Mario episode.
I was thinking in terms of like adaptations of the material, and like the Minecraft movie is definitely a worse movie.
Well, okay, that is true. The Mario movie is more like Mario than the Minecraft movie is like my experience of Minecraft. By that metric, the Star Wars A New Hope is pretty slavish to the movie.
Yeah, but like, I mean,
it's just a horrible way of experiencing it.
I mean, that has to count for something. Like, you have to consider what you're changing when you're changing to a different medium. And it's like, obviously, you can't just take a book and make it into a movie for the most part, for most movies and most books. And you can't just do the reverse. You have to consider, like, what do I cut out to maintain pacing? What extra information do I include if I'm changing it from a movie to a book? Yeah. And it's like,
you don't have to consider these things if you're Alan Dean Foster.
No, he didn't consider anything, I don't think.
This also reminds me of something I wanted to say, which is I think this could be a good first episode to listen to because it gives you a taste of our thoughts on all these things, and then you can go back and find the ones that sound interesting. But my vote is firmly still for A New Hope.
I will concede that because I don't really have a strong preference for any of them. I kind of hate them all equally.
Yeah. I think those are the three that are just outright turkeys that we've covered. I don't think any other movie we've covered has been actively a poor movie, like unwatchable, whether you've read the book or watched, or whatever. But those three all are in their own way. So for me, it's Star Wars A New Hope.
We'll give it to Star Wars A New Hope as the worst adaptation. Don't read the book, just watch the movie.
Yep. You can pick the next category. It doesn't have to be negative.
Let's do most fun to record. And for me, this was like a very subjective like category. So like you may have different ones that you thought were more fun to record. But I have...
What are your nominees?
The Green Knight, the Wonk Apocalypse episode, and I have Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, I liked recording all of those.
Is there like another one you want to throw in?
I don't have the strongest memories of the actual recording experience every time.
Well, I just like... I'm thinking of like in terms of like also like having to like sit down and kind of do the thing. Because like... Yeah. And it's like a sliding scale because like I look at The Green Knight and I remember reading the poem that's based off of, and I enjoy that stuff, but like even then it's not like it's not an amazing experience. Yeah. But like I enjoyed watching the film, I enjoyed talking about the film because I thought it was really like interesting and cool, and I feel like we had a lot to say.
Yeah, I think The Green Knight had a lot to chew on in a way that made it an interesting conversation to have. Roger Rabbit was fun, I guess. I'm struggling. I think it would be the first one I would eliminate from contention.
And then I don't. So I watched all the Wonka movies back to back to back, which I think I complained about.
Yeah, which gave it a certain energy from your side.
It was an interesting experience, and I've been also recently listening to the soundtrack of the new Wonka.
Yeah. Has it grown? It's
grown on me
because you didn't like it when we covered it.
I know, and now that's
because it was the third Willy Wonka movie you had seen in 8 hours.
And then like it's been recommended to me through YouTube because YouTube's like, we think you might like this, and it's like, actually I do like it. Thank you, YouTube.
I would give it to The Green Knight. I think it's a good mix of actually just entertaining work, had interesting stuff to chew on to make the conversation more interesting to have.
Because I remember that you brought up the idea of like it's like an RPG kind of like board game kind of thing.
We had some good readings. A classic adaptive difficulty trait is to apply extremely broad readings to things, and The Green Knight had like at least 3. So
I don't want to make it sound like I'm just agreeing with you, but that's kind of where I was also kind of thinking about it because I have The Green Knight listed number 1, and that usually means that it's the one that I thought was the most likely.
Okay. Lock it in. Green Knight was the most fun episode to record of sort of 2025, but also including a tiny bit of 2024 when our show got started.
Then I had least enjoyed, and I think there's something here in terms of like...
I mean, this really just gets into like our lives and schedules, I guess. Like,
well, like, I mean, there's that, but also like I look at it, I'm like, what we did and kind of how the project, like the ultimate result kind of turned out. Because I have Macbeth on here. And like most of
plus, what else is...
I have Clue. but that's because it's Clue. And then
Okay.
I had The Outsiders, and that's like the first episode, and there's a lot I like about it, but there's also a lot I don't like about it, which is kind of the reason why I also have Macbeth on there, because I feel like we were still kind of getting to the point of like, what do we want this podcast to look like? And like, we got far too in the weeds with Macbeth and like the symbolism and everything, and I think there's ways we could do Shakespeare adaptations without it sounding like an academic essay, which I think that episode does.
Yeah. I think our Macbeth essay was basically our audition for if we had a podcast that was about Shakespeare.
Yeah.
But it was not. Especially because it was just about one specific semi-staged version that, like, I feel like we got way too in the weeds for how not broad the topic in the first place was.
Yeah. I feel like if we're going to do Shakespeare, I want like 3 or 4 wacky adaptations that we like compare back and forth.
But I think The Outsiders was not a bad experience to record. We were just rusty.
Yeah.
Or not rusty, but unpracticed. Which is similar to how I guess you put Clue because you don't like Clue, the board game, and also you just watched a Let's Play of it.
Yeah.
To prepare. But I played the game, and I liked the movie fine. And I thought it was interesting.
One for like least enjoyed?
I would vote for Macbeth, which sounds like what your vote would be too.
And again, that's the first one I have. Like, I could see an argument being made that like, oh, Minecraft should be on there because like we hated that movie, but at the same time I'm like, but I got to play Minecraft beforehand, and that's pretty good.
Yeah. Also, I went and saw it Easter Sunday in a theater alone,
like the Lord wants you
iconic,
to.
So that was church.
So we did worst adaptation, which we gave to New Hope. Most fun, The Green Knight. Least enjoyed was Macbeth. I then have two. I have 2 left, which was what we think the best episode is, which is kind of like the opposite of the least enjoyed. Or a little bit. And I have Minecraft as an option because I like that episode of us dunking on that movie. And then I have Wonk Apocalypse, and then I have No Country for Old Men.
Okay, I like all of those. I would add to the short list Little Women, at least my memories of it.
Yeah, because I mean, we had your wife on there, and that was nice.
Yeah, that was fun. But I just think I feel like that was almost where we started to find our footing a little bit. It had the right mix of, like, we did the personality test for the Little Women, but we also seriously talked about the book.
Yeah.
But since that was not on your short list, of the 3 you did mention...
Well, I mean, like, I'm willing to accept writing categories.
To form a consensus, I would say Minecraft.
Isn't it weird that the worst adaptation, or one of the worst adaptations, is also the best episode?
Well, that's why there's so many, like, bad movie podcasts, because it's just inherently... It's maybe a little easier to make fun. I'm not interested in being a pure bad movie podcast because it's all been done, but...
See, now I'm really thinking about Little Women, because I'm really thinking about Little Women.
Yeah, your categories are a lot more... I guess I did not expect to review ourselves as much as you did. I thought we were just going to talk about the works and give them awards.
I mean, we'll get there later.
Yeah. So I think we should save best... Because if we award best adaptation right now, then we'll just know what we're going to send through to the end of, or at least we'll feel obligated to send it through to the end of the tournament.
That's fair. I mean, I think all 3 of mine that I have for best adaptation could easily win it all. So
okay, don't say them right now, so that I don't know your thoughts. Did you have any more in the achievements / awards category from your end?
No, because I was thinking like thematically like what I would do, because like I don't want to do like one that's like, what's the funniest one, because I feel like that becomes down to like personal preference or like
taste.
So like I thought those
funniest
were the
movie or funniest episode.
I mean, again, you could do either one of those, but it's still, I mean, like, I feel like funniest episode becomes down to like what's the most fun to record, because I feel like we both like to be funny. And in terms of like what's the funniest episode, or what's the funniest movie, it's like, well, how do you categorize that? Like, is it like, because on some level that's Tom and Jerry and the Wizard of Oz, because it's like, why does this movie exist? And you're just kind of like,
no, even if it was, I mean, even if we only put comedies that we covered in contention, I think Tom and Jerry would not get even close to winning.
But it's like funny in like, this movie's so bad kind of way.
We called it nothing, not bad.
Maybe it's my rose-tinted goggles. But let's see this bracket of yours.
Okay. I've just got it written on paper, so I'll just explain it. So the way I did this, first I just went back and listed everything we've covered so far. And I realized if you combine, there's 2 things where we covered multiple versions. that are true I ruled out Wonka, the Timothy Chalamet movie, because it's not actually adapting any prior work. It's a sequel/prequel. If you combine the two Wonkas that are adaptations and Blade Runner 1 and 2, then also you have to eliminate A New Hope from contention entirely. If you do all of that, you have 16 entries.
Okay.
So basically I set it up where first we have to decide which Wonka we want to put forward into the actual tournament, and we have to decide which Blade Runner we want to put forward into the actual tournament. They have like play-ins to get on the bracket. My
distinct opinion is that I like the second Willy Wonka, the one with Johnny Depp, and I prefer Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, so that was easy because I agree with you on both counts.
Yes.
I think we are in the minority on definitely Wonka.
Well, I mean, like, I feel like it really comes down to like...
We were 6 when it came out, so screw it. Like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, better soundtrack, better thematic filming. It's got Count Dooku in it. Like, what would you want? Like, Gene Wilder, love him.
And then Blade Runner, Okay, so I also thought some of these rounds are going to be a little obvious. Mm-hmm. So we'll say our piece on what we do appreciate about the one that's getting eliminated as it gets eliminated. I think we were too harsh on Blade Runner.
I mean, I would have to like go back and actually watch the film.
Yeah, I just think I liked it significantly more than you in the first place, and I should have stood up for it more.
Because you're a coward.
I will say I don't think it's an amazing as relative to the book, but I think it stands perfectly well on its own as a movie. For me, it's like a 7 out of 10 movie if you ignore that there's a book it's based on.
I mean, that's probably fair.
That's all I really wanted to say.
I came out of that movie being like disappointed, and I know part of it's because of like I really like the book, and I think the book is interesting and deals with interesting things, and the movie just is not about that, or it is about that on like a very surface level.
So, do you want me to read the whole bracket down before we get
let's just go do it.
Okay,
group by group.
So, my first category was sort of fairly modern adaptations made by major directors, I guess. So we've got No Country for Old Men versus Blade Runner 2049.
I feel like I have to give it to No Country. Because I just feel like as just like a standalone film, it is like more gripping to watch, I think. Just in terms of like the tension and the actors and the acting. And I think in terms of like being an adaptation.
Yes, I think I like Blade Runner 2049 more relative to Blade Runner, but I will be honest that in general, I don't think I click with Denis Villeneuve's directorial style. Have you seen the new Dune?
I've only seen the first Dune.
But the new one from like the 2020s.
Yes.
He just has this very like everything's very spacious and the acting is kind of blank in a way. And it like I saw someone describe it, and this is overly mean, I think, but they're like, it's like prestige streaming television, but as a movie. And that resonated with me.
I mean, I guess I vaguely agree with that. I do think it's too mean, but like, because I mean, I like both those films that I've seen. I like the first Dune and I like the Blade Runner 2049. So like,
the second Dune is better than the first Dune.
Really?
Yes.
Well,
by quite a bit.
I've never seen it, and the reason I never see it is because I keep trying to watch it during Christmas when we're at my sister's house. But my mom refuses to let us watch Dune because she hates the first one.
We'll try to watch it some other time.
No, I can't, Josh. It's now a point of pride. I have to force my mom to watch Dune.
Okay. But I also read, maybe we'll do Dune someday, although the book is pretty huge, so it might be hard to get to. So I'll give some brief thoughts about it now. I have read Dune, the book, which is a very good book. It really bothered me that one of the best scenes in the original the first half of the book, which is this like dinner that they all go to, and the book is written in omniscient narration, where you can go into the head of any character. And so you have all these different characters at this dinner that's like, you know, they all have their own like political motivation for being at this dinner. And then there ends up being like a traitor, and everything kind of goes to crap in the middle of this dinner. And it's like a key touchstone scene that everyone who's read the book remembers. And it's just not in the movie. And I get that it would be hard because it's such an internal scene.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But
I'm like, I would almost go as far to say that I don't like the first Dune movie very much. I like the second one, but I just think the first one it feels like the prologue of the second one to me.
Yeah, I could see how that could be the case because, like, I mean, like, it's been like maybe when did it come out?
Like 2020.
I basically saw it the first year it came
22.
out, and like the thing I remember most from that movie is all the memes of like them like looking back in space and there'd be like the ominous like singing or whatever, and like I love that shit. But like, I wonder if I went back and watched it now if I would have a different opinion.
It has good vibes, but we've gotten way off. Not that I care that we're off topic really, but Dune is not eligible to move forward in this bracket. So
that's true. No Country for Old Men, it is.
No Country for Old Men wins this round. Because I guess my point is Blade Runner 2049 for me is like maybe an 8 out of 10. Like it's like a step better than what it came before. But No Country for Old Men is just like nonstop. Well, it's like a nonstop action thriller while also still being thematically rich, which
coherent.
Is just kind of unbeatable. But we'll see.
I mean, like, I love Blade Runner 2049 because I think that it does like it understands the book that its predecessor is based off of, and like is willing to like reconcile with those ideas a little bit more.
Yeah. So, not to downplay Blade Runner 2049, it just doesn't make it through this time. Next matchup, these are true Britlit classics. Is the theme here? So this is The Green Knight versus Macbeth.
Oh, it's so easy. It's Green Knight.
The version of Macbeth we watched was good in that it had good performances. It didn't do anything actively bad, as far as I remember. But it was just a staged version of Macbeth, and it didn't have the energy of seeing it live to help it along. So
The Green Knight, if you recall, made us come up with a new category, which is where it was a ROM hack of like doing the game.
Oh yeah, I think The Green Knight, and this is where I didn't want to get into this all because I knew I might bring it up later. The Green Knight is just more of like, I think it was a perfect movie for us because I think The Green Knight is designed for people who have read The Green Knight to watch it, and then it's like part of the point of watching The Green Knight is what it is saying about adapting itself into a movie. So The Green Knight goes through easily there. Next we have childhood favorites, basically Holes versus what we ended up deciding is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory from 2005.
See, this is tough on me because these are both heavy nostalgia films for me.
Yeah, me too, for sure.
Holes feels like the better film than Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yes.
In terms of like being coherent and having like themes and exploring those themes. But I look at Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and I'm like, I'd watch the movie again right now. Like, I don't know if I would go seek out Holes. I might go seek out Charlie and the Chocolate Factory after we're done here.
Yeah, I guess I have two distinct, and this is really down to the format I tended to watch them in. Holes for me is like, it was the first movie I can remember as a kid that felt like kind of important when you watched it. Because it's not as straight up a comedy or an adventure as a lot of children's movies. It almost, I've called Holes a lot of things, including a Coen Brothers movie. So I'm going to call it one more thing, which is, it almost feels like the child version of Oscar bait, where it's like, it's got all these like interconnected narratives and like
but at that point, does that mean that we have to stand back and be like, no Oscar bait whatsoever?
Oh, I'm fine with Oscar bait. I saw Hamnet a month ago. It's a good movie. It's Oscar bait, but it's good.
See, like when I think of like Charlie and Chocolate Factory, like I don't really think of like the whole movie. I think of like individual scenes that I really like. Like I think in terms of like the opening sequence where he's putting the chocolate bars, or he's putting the gold ticket on the chocolate bars.
When the castle
whole
melts,
process, I think that's cool.
A little troop gets melts on the guy's head.
Yes, that is great. Like, there's so many like iconic scenes from that movie that like I'm like, that will stick with me. I'll be on my deathbed and I'll like look up to the ceiling. I'll just expect a chocolate thing to fall on my head, and I'll be like, that's when I know that God is coming to take me to home. Like, that's really what's going to happen.
But Holes, I did not have on DVD. I caught it on the Disney Channel. But I watched it several times that way. It was on a lot.
I've probably seen Holes more than I've seen Charlie.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I believe I saw in theaters.
As did I.
And then I had it on DVD. And
Same.
I think for me, and I think I might have mentioned this in our episode, but I feel like for me, even though I wouldn't say Tim Burton's like a favorite director of mine these days, I think because he made child-friendly movies that were still like in his style, he was my first exposure to like movies can feel weird and idiosyncratic.
That's a good thing.
I feel like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was like a compelling movie to rewatch because child me was like, this is doing something weird and different from the other stuff I'm seeing, but I can't quite, I'm trying to catch on to what, So I think even if some people like, even if Tim Burton got a little off the deep end, including some people would say with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I think there's something to appreciate about like an auteur style director making kids movies.
If there's ever a film to go wacky and weird with, it's like a Roald Dahl film.
Yeah, that's true. So it sounds like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is going through on this round.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Holes. I love you, but the Oompa Loompas, love them.
This is probably the weirdest matchup. Well, no, there's one more matchup that's probably similarly odd. I did not want to put Mario and Minecraft together because I knew they would both lose, and then it would not be fair for, like, they should be low seed or high seeds because they're bad. So this is basically kids movies again. Wizard of Oz versus Mario, the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, it's Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
We can move on.
Yeah. I guess I'll, in my defense of putting these together, they're both about characters. They're both isekai.
Josh, I hate the fact that you brought that up.
But yeah, Wizard of Oz. You heard it here first. Better than the Super Mario Brothers movie.
They hated us because we spoke the truth.
Next, we have Coming of Age, Little Women versus Outsiders.
I would probably say Little Women because I like the book The Outsiders a lot more than I like. I don't know. I feel like maybe.
No, that's definitely not. That's not true for me.
I had problems.
Oh, you like the book The Outsiders more than the movie The Outsiders, is what you were going to say.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say you like it more than the book Little Women, and I was like, I don't know about that, no. Chief.
No, I think Little Women is the better story in terms of being a book. I'm just like, okay, the adaptation. I feel like me and your wife yelled about it for 30 minutes in the middle section of that podcast episode.
Well, so here's my thinking. I think The Outsiders, kind of our conclusion, The Outsiders feels like a book report of a movie. It got the basic plot details there. There's nothing technically wrong with it, but that's kind of it.
There's no spice.
Yeah. Little Women, the Greta Gerwig version is what we're discussing from 2019. Adds its own flair, is just a more stylish version of the story. So I would put Little Women through.
I think that's probably where I'm going to go because even if I had issues with it, I feel like there was more to say. So I feel like you look at The Outsiders and you're like, yeah, that's The Outsiders.
Yeah. I think.
Did we watch the 2-hour version, the Coppola cut, or did we just watch the?
We watched.
Theatrical
at
release?
least I watched, but we did not pre-discuss it. The original theatrical cut, because that was what was.
I think it's what I watched too.
Amazon, I think.
Yeah, because I'm just people always say that the Coppola cut is better, but it's probably just more of the same.
Yeah, it also changed the score because they couldn't go back and try to seamlessly add more to the score. So I think maybe people like the score worse. So it's on my short list of things we could do in New Pod Plus, but I'm not rushing to get around to it. So,
and I teach 8th grade English, and so we read that book in that class, and we watch the film, and I'm just so tired of the basic. And I forgive them because they're 12. Their basic opinion of it's cut out this part of the book, therefore it's bad.
Yeah, that is what we are fighting against. We are the vanguard against. You don't do the checklist. Don't just be well, these 10 things were different, so it's bad. They're different.
And
movies
are
bad
not books for different reasons.
Yeah.
Movies are not books, Josh. That's our slogan for our TV show.
Welcome
episode.
to we were talking about how we might need a new slogan. Welcome to Adaptive Difficulty, where movies are not books.
I can see it on a shirt, Josh.
Next matchup. This is why I said Wizard of Oz and Mario was not the weirdest possible matchup on this list. But I've come up with the category just now before I say it out loud. This is movies that heavily deal with estates. Pride and Prejudice versus Clue.
Okay. That's a cop-out for a category, I guess. But,
again, I was trying to sort things semi-seating and also trying to have some sort of category to fall back on. Yeah. It got harder. After I finished the first two, it really got a lot harder to come up with more. No Country versus Blade Runner and The Green Knight versus Macbeth were definitely my strongest work here.
We're going to have to start planning these in advance. That way you can have coherent categories by the end of it. Okay, Clue versus Pride and Prejudice. Well, we hated, maybe it's strong word, we did not like the Pride and Prejudice film.
Again,
and we were generally positive of the Clue film.
I like the Pride and Prejudice movie. Again, I think there's another case where I let you talk over my actual opinion, like Blade Runner. I think it easily could have been a better adaptation of the book if it were less breezy, I guess. But a breezy little period love story is not bad. But
That's
I do
true.
like
I
Clue
mean, like-
better. I think Clue is the more singular film, if that makes sense. Like, there's a lot of movies kind of like the Pride and Prejudice movie. There's not a lot of even comedies like the Clue movie.
Plus, it's got Tim Curry in it.
Yeah, it has Tim Curry in it.
Do you think there could be a Pride and Prejudice film where Tim Curry plays Mr. Darcy?
Unfortunately, not these days because he's severely disabled. But there could have been, I guess.
I just meant, like, do you think it would work out?
I don't know. He feels a little goofy to me, but that's
Yeah, but, like,
that's what I've seen him in. But it's goofy stuff.
It worked for Breaking Bad, Josh.
Mr. Darcy's not in Breaking Bad.
I'm giving him the side eye, guys, because he's just refusing to engage.
What? I engaged as much as possible. I said it could happen when he was younger. I'll say I
won't
think
show
it would
you my
be good.
fanfiction
That's not refusing to engage. That's having a different opinion than you.
No, Josh, you have to agree with me. Otherwise, it's not fun. I say we push Clue forward. I don't have a strong preference in this category.
I thought Clue was a heavy favorite, but it was just a moderate favorite.
I like the Clue movie more than I like Pride and Prejudice movie, but I'm like, yeah.
Next category is fantasy worlds of the 80s. Princess Bride versus The Empire Strikes Back novel.
Princess Bride.
Yeah. Again, to say our piece about the eliminated contestant. Honestly, I think the best thing I can say about The Empire Strikes Back novel is that it's not actively miserable to read and is a way better attempt at it than A New Hope novel. But I would not actively...
But, like, still, at that point...
I wouldn't actively recommend seeking it out. Because,
yeah. I have told people, you should read the Princess Bride book. It's different and weird and good in its own way.
Right.
Whereas I'm like, just see the Star Wars film.
Yeah. And to be clear, Princess Bride, the movie, was the adaptation, which, of course, is maybe one of the best movies ever, not just adaptations. So
it's got such a unique feel to it, where it feels like a low-budget set.
That was an easy one. And our final in the Sweet 16 is, and this category I do think makes sense. This was one I had in mind, even though I'm doing it last, is humans in animated worlds, Roger Rabbit versus Minecraft.
Okay. It's Roger Rabbit.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the first round is seeded so that the conversations get harder later on.
That's fair.
But yes, it is Roger Rabbit.
Actively don't go see the Minecraft movie.
Yeah, don't watch the Minecraft movie. The only context in which I've found myself saying anything positive about it was in our Super Mario Brothers movie episode. And basically what I said positive about it is that the Minecraft movie has a basic understanding of character arcs in that some of the characters have them, unlike the Mario movie.
There are, like, small bits and pieces of that movie that I like, just in terms of, like, and I don't really like them in the context of the film. I just like them. Like, I think the Lava Chicken song is good. I will die on that hill.
Jack Black is clearly doing what they asked him to do, which is be Jack Black. I think there's honestly some things in the, like, frame story that are kind of unique. Like, you wouldn't not have expected if you were like, oh, they're making a mass appeal Minecraft movie. I bet that'll be set next to a potato chip plant in Idaho, and there'll be a Donkey Kong world champion in it.
I feel like that script has existed since, like, Minecraft came out, and it's been rewritten like 4 times.
That is, it has a ton of writers credited. At one point, Charlie Day from Always Sunny was attached. Or it's either him or Rob McElhenney, the other guy from Always Sunny. One of those people was attached to make it or star in it, which didn't happen. Okay, so we are into the Elite 8. I think this is where it will get interesting, at least harder to decide for some of these. We are starting with No Country for Old Men is now against The Green Knight.
So my opinion is that The Green Knight is better than No Country for Old Men. Just in terms of, like, I've seen No Country for Old Men several times. I love it. I enjoy it all the time. The Green Knight is like one of the very few films that I like. I saw and I immediately wanted to watch it again, like immediately afterwards.
I like No Country for Old Men better than The Green Knight. So I told you things would get harder here. I think The Green Knight is very good. It has some slow moments that are slow, not in the
Slow's
sense
not
that...
bad, Josh.
What?
I said slow's not bad, Josh.
But I'm saying it has slow moments in the sense that is bad. Like there are slow movies where that's the point and I like it. The Green Knight has some moments that just bore me.
Name one.
When he first sets out on the adventure and he just kind of walks through the big open fields and like a fox walks around him for a bit, and then he meets
we love foxes, we love open fields.
Like
thematically relevant, Josh.
I think between leaving the town and getting to the castle with the game of exchanges, that's a lull in the movie, to me. I'm willing to compromise here and say that I think the Green Knight is a more interesting work of adaptation and put it forward on that basis.
I will accept your concession because that's kind of what was going to be my argument. And like, I think we talked about this, but like, No Country for Old Men feels like a very easy adaptation to make, just in how it's like written.
I talked about this a little bit already, where I don't think it was easy necessarily to adapt because people are like, well, it was a screenplay originally and they just turned it back into one. Quite a bit changed between those, but it's the type of story that already works as a movie, like a crime thriller, heist gone wrong type thing.
Yeah.
Well, not heist, but caper type thing gone wrong. So yeah, let's put the Green Knight forward for those reasons. This is going to be, I think, especially tough for you. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory versus The Wizard of Oz.
Again, I want to say Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Like, Wizard of Oz is clearly like a better film, but I'm like, I don't know, I'm compelled to have Charlie go as far as he can.
I'm almost willing to go with it just because I think it's the most rage-inducing possible choice you can make. And I'm not that against it.
I mean, they're very different movies, different target audiences, different time periods, but I'm like, again, I'll actively go seek out Charlie and Chocolate Factory sometimes. Probably will sometime today. I probably won't do that for Wizard of Oz. Plus, the last Wizard of Oz movie I consumed was Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, well, here's what I'll say, because I think this was something I was thinking about as I was setting up the bracket is, are we just talking about the actual adapted work, or are we talking about the experience as a whole? Like, would we recommend reading this book and watching this movie? That's what I'll use as my tiebreaker here.
So,
what's your thought?
I think you should read the Wizard of Oz book, because I think it's weird and wacky in ways that, like, the movie just doesn't get into. And, like, part of that's, like, the reason why I dislike some parts of the Wizard of Oz. I'm like, they changed it to be like a dream sequence in the movie, which I don't know if that was just because of like the product of their time, where it's like no one wants to believe in like an actual land of Oz or whatever. Whereas in the book, it's like just a legitimately like real place. And I'm like,
right.
I like whimsy. I like when it's taken seriously. I don't need things to be like, I don't need quote unquote realism, like popping the bubble that I live my life in.
To go back to my tiebreaker idea. So basically thinking about, would I recommend you have this full experience that we had of read the book and then watch the movie? I think for The Wizard of Oz, both works are good and worth watching or reading, but I don't think reading the book of The Wizard of Oz adds that much to the experience of watching it or vice versa. They're just kind of different things. I think Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is more interesting in like conversation with the book.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm going to be clear here. I do not think Charlie and the Chocolate Factory from 2005 is a better movie than The Wizard of Oz.
I don't either. I'm just like, I want that boy to run. Listen, Josh, his grandparents are stuck in a bed. This is all he has.
Next, we have Little Women 2019 versus Clue.
Little Women 2019.
Yeah, that feels like maybe the easiest of this round. It's just a more complex and covers more of the human experience other than, solving a murder in a mansion, which is important to me.
I mean, like, there's like more
than that. No.
Clue's just full of like one-liners, and like those stick out with you, which is, I mean, it is something to say that like I could probably name you more lines from Clue than I could from Little Women 2019, but not that much.
There's that classic one-liner, I'm so angry all the time.
Flames. They both deal with women having anger issues.
Yeah, that I was thinking about that when I assumed they would know. And both in such sensitive ways. And then Princess Bride versus Roger Rabbit, which is again sort of a 80s alt universe.
You really did plan this bracket out down to the letter. I would probably still say Princess Bride, because like, well, okay, if we're taking on the context of like reading both, having our experience of reading both, of doing both versions. No, I think I would probably still say The Princess Bride, because I think...
To me, that's a tiebreaker. And I would say that is a more interesting experiment with Roger Rabbit. But but I just like the Princess Bride movie significantly more than I like Roger Rabbit in the first place.
That's probably true. But I mean, I would go to defend that. I think that like there's some stuff you get from reading the book in The Princess Bride that like you don't get in the movie, because like it's got that frame story of like the author or the person, the narrator, like rekindling the relationship with his son in a stupid, complex way. And like he's kind of a terrible person, but it's also kind of interesting to kind of look at.
I would honestly say, if you're going to read the book of The Princess Bride, find the earliest published edition that you can, because every time they print it, the author goes back and writes another foreword, and it just gets more and more of the story is not actually The Princess Bride, and it's just random like front matter that's in universe. And I think that's that got exhausting. So, okay, Princess Bride goes through Roger Rabbit. Very interesting book, much different than the movie, although closer in some ways than people make it sound. I think Roger Rabbit, I like it fine. It's just never hit as like an all-time classic with me the way some people talk about it.
And it used to hit harder for me whenever I was younger, and I don't know what that was, but like, and of course, you know, Jessica Rabbit's always up there, being sad and just drawn that way. But yeah, it's like, I like it less now than I did when I was younger.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is the opposite of Princess Bride.
We're entering our final four. The first matchup is The Green Knight versus Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Okay.
And I'll say the buck stops here. I'm not letting Charlie through just because you want him to.
Come on, Josh. You know you want to. He's the people's choice. Do you think people are going to line up and see The Green Knight or read the Green Knight poem? No. They're going to line up and see Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
It's our most popular episode.
I guess, but I mean, I'll concede,
not that that's a reason that it's best, but
I'll concede because even in my heart, even though I want Charlie to win, he's got that Chocolate Factory to keep him safe at night, so he doesn't need this win.
Because last round, I was at least able to make the argument, well, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is a more unique and interesting comparison to its book, because it's closer to its book. It's not as loose of an adaptation. But that The Green Knight is also that, and is a better and more interesting movie in that way and in the normal way of being a movie.
I guess. Fine. Kill this poor child's hopes and dreams.
And then we have Little Women 2019 versus The Princess Bride.
I think I'm of the opinion that's The Princess Bride.
Okay, I was worried we were going to have a lock here, and this is not fair to Little Women, which is an excellent movie and an amazing book, but The Princess Bride has just been one of my favorite movies for 15 years, 16 years, and Little Women just hasn't had. I think the way I'm thinking about it is like, I could see within the next 20 years there being another adaptation of Little Women, and it'll be different, it'll be weird, and it'll do things that the other ones didn't do, it'll do things that are better than they didn't do, it'll do things that are worse than they did. I don't see a world within, I think, the next 100 years where we have another Princess Bride adaptation. I think if there's more Princess Bride material, we'll get a sequel before we get a remake.
That may be true. But like, I just feel like it stands out as being like a definitive version of the adaptation. Whereas like, that's not true for Little Women.
Have you seen more than one version of Little Women?
I just know they exist.
Yeah. We'll need to cover at least this one, if not several others, on New Pod Plus. But Little Women 1994, which is Rachel, my wife's favorite, I've seen it since we recorded, and it's also extremely good. So, I think The Princess Bride is more unique in that they're just not going to... Like, I could see Hollywood trying again, because Hollywood is dumb and likes to remake things, but it's honestly hard to see them doing it, especially now that Rob Reiner has passed away. I think it would be almost a little disrespectful, and people would see that. And it feels definitive. I'm in agreement there to put it through. So our championship round leaves us with The Green Knight versus The Princess Bride, which is a little interesting because ultimately we came back around to two like fairy tale-esque themed fantasy.
We yearn for the magic, Josh. I mean, my first round of voting would probably be The Green Knight, because I think that both of them are very interesting in terms of like their adaptations, but I think it's a harder job to adapt that poem than it is that book.
Yeah, I think I don't want to just agree with you, because I was hoping this would be a more contentious championship, but I think in my heart, I like The Princess Bride, the movie, more just purely as a movie. But talking about it in the context that we're talking about them, it is not as hard to adapt, so it's not as impressive in a way of an adaptation. It's not really in conversation with the book. It's not saying anything about the act of adapting. It's just turning out an excellent adventure story onto a movie screen. Whereas The Green Knight is doing all of that. Again, The Green Knight maybe is not even one of my top 3 favorite movies on this list, but I think it deserves a win for most interesting work of adaptation that we've covered in that context.
Most self-conscious adaptation.
But self-conscious in a way that worked for it.
Yeah. Self-aware adaptation.
Congratulations to The Green Knight by David Lowery on winning the first annual Adaptee for best adaptation that we happened to cover in the previous calendar year.
Mm-hmm. That's the full title. So I'll just real quick. So my list for best adaptation, I think is interesting in the context of this. So I had No Country for Old Men, I had Holes, and I had The Princess Bride.
Really? Yeah, that's interesting. Because No Country for Old Men went out pretty quickly. Holes went out first round.
I mean, that's like, and again, I didn't know who you were comparing it against or like whatever. But
yeah, some of it has to, I mean, I'm sure there's some way. I think The Green Knight was always likely to get pretty far, but maybe there's some way where the bracket's made differently and it turns out differently. But
I had kind of anticipated with your brackets of like, oh, it's going to be like The Green Knight versus No Country for Old Men. It's kind of how I thought the bracket would shake out, but I didn't realize they were on the same side.
Yeah, that is true too. I just tried to do, I mean, I got all the first round matchups correct when I was seeding. I tried to pick things. I mean, I knew what I liked, and I kind of had obviously an impression of your opinions from our episode recordings, so I tried to base it on that. Yeah, and I succeeded there, and then things got a little weird, especially with putting Charlie through probably one round longer than if I were in control.
No. He deserves it. Now, if Wonka had been on this list, I would have given Wonka the win.
I think that I think No Country for Old Men is my favorite movie on the list, even though it did not win the tournament.
I probably would give mine to The Green Knight.
And Princess Bride would be either a tie or my second favorite.
I would probably go The Green Knight, No Country for Old Men, and then maybe Holes in terms of like well-crafted movies that I think that are good.
And the rest suck.
That's true.
All right, well, that's the books. Close the books on,
as we always say,
awards show. Yeah, we are always saying
the books. They ain't movies.
It's been another year where books aren't movies, or movies aren't, whatever way we said it the first time. It's been one more year of movies not being books, like we always say.
It's like a mathematical equation. Movies are not equal to books, are not equal to video games, are not equal to.
It's a logical supposition 1. Books are not movies.
Syllogisms.
Supposition 2 is that, I don't know, something that proves something about adaptations by the end.
Okay, I got it. It's books aren't movies, but what if they could be?
Okay, yeah, that works. No, it's a new thing no one's ever thought of, which is what if movies aren't books, but what if they were?
I mean, that's why you come to this podcast. We ask the questions that no one dares ask.
We're already maybe a little long compared to normal. But
it's a yearly celebration, though. It can be longer.
Yeah. Well, okay. So instead of our usual, which is, have you read or watched anything recently? Do you have any of the year awards to hand out? Like movies we haven't talked about that you saw last year that are your movie of the year, books of the year? In
terms of books of the year, I'll give, and we're going to do this one in the future, Red, White, and Royal Blue as the greatest book that deals with the queer reimagining of the political landscape of America and England.
I know you're trying to make that sound really specific, but I'm not even convinced that if I read more queer romance books that I would agree that that's the best one. It's the best one you read last year, I suppose. I forget what books I read. I did not read a lot of books that were not for this podcast because I was busy. I read the Iliad, so that one kind of...
In preparation for the movie?
Well, the movie is The Odyssey. I read the Iliad
but
last year. Oh, here, I'll give a shout out to Play Nice, The Rise, Fall, and Future of Blizzard Entertainment by Jason Schreier.
No.
It's actually just a very compelling, like, full history of Blizzard.
Do they talk about the breast milk?
Yes.
Okay.
They probably don't cover the like misogyny controversy as in depth as people would want. Maybe partially because he needed access, but also he does kind of explain it as like I think the author truly believes that it really was more of a like few bad eggs situation.
Yeah.
So, and then the Iliad, of course, is great, and kind of wins by default because I read like 3 books that were for this podcast last year. So. I bet you I agree with the Oscars that Best Picture is One Battle After Another. So,
I don't even know any of the Oscar films. I watch a lot less movies than I read books.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. One Battle After Another is kind of the front runner for Best Picture. Hamnet doesn't really have great Best Picture odds, but Jessie Buckley, who plays Shakespeare's wife, who goes by Agnes in the movie, even though we call her Anne Hathaway usually nowadays. She is great in it, and she is by far the front runner for Best Actress. Timothée Chalamet for Marty Supreme. That was a really good movie too. I liked The Phoenician Scheme, Wes Anderson's new movie. It's not getting a lot of awards buzz, but if you are someone if you've liked previous Wes Anderson movies, which obviously is a pretty good predictor for liking Wes Anderson movies, but it's him doing like globe-trotting adventure in his style. So if you've ever wanted to see, Indiana Jones or James Bond, except it's, a quirked up white boy indie movie, The Phoenician Scheme is very good.
I think Avatar will win for Best Visual Effects.
No.
I assume it's nominated. I assume it's been nominated.
Oh, yeah. The nominations aren't out, but yeah. I mean, I think it would be crazy if it did not win.
Ooh, maybe they'll invent an Oscar for the best baddie to be added onto the screen, and Varang will win.
For who?
The best baddie, Varang. I
thought you said best
evil
baddie.
No,
like, why would they?
Well, I mean that one probably also goes to Avatar
baddie in 2026.
Okay, Avatar definitely wins best baddie for Varang. Probably also wins best daddy, and probably in both senses of those terms, where you either Miles Quaritch or you go for Jake Sully. So I think it's got both categories on down on lock.
One Battle After Another is a big Leonardo. I mean, if it's purely lust driven, then sure. But if it's a true fatherhood award, One Battle After Another would also win that category for Leonardo DiCaprio's character.
I don't know. I mean, Jake Sully does a lot of good dad stuff in Pirate and Ash.
Or even
like that one time when he about murders his son and then decides not to.
It was a big year at the cinema for daddies.
That's true.
So
it's the year of the daddies.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that officially puts a wrap on the first annual Adaptee Awards and closes another year where, yet again, books are not movies.
No one has stopped us.
But what if they could be?
What if they could be? That is the question.